the recording. There we go. So Paula, of course, I'm going to start by thanking you to, first of all, agreeing to speak with us. And I'm just going to introduce Paula a little bit for you guys. So Paula, her name is Paula Mazeo. She's a mom of two. She's Brazilian. She has been living in London for 16 years. She's trained and registered as a psychotherapist in the UK, with experience in many areas of conflicts and mental health difficulties as well, especially anxiety-related issues. So tonight she's going to be speaking to us, and then she's going to be speaking about building a healthy sense of self-worth, of self-esteem. And of course, we all need it. I mean, if we don't have self-esteem, if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't do anything. We can't take care of ourselves. We can't take care of anyone. So she's going to be talking about the journey to rediscover or even build a healthy sense of self-worth and self-esteem. And that begins with self-awareness. In this talk, we will learn how to identify and make positive changes in the way we see ourselves. Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, so Paula, all yours. Thank you again.
How long do I have again?
Let's say half an hour, 40 minutes. I mean, up to you.
Okay, you tell me, you manage me, okay?
All right.
So hello guys, as Olivia said, I'm Paula, and I think talking about self-esteem in a small, like in this kind of time, is not. It's a big ask, isn't it? Because I know it's much more complex and much more complicated than that. So I don't want to minimize how complex it is. Okay, I just want to give you a few points so you can think about it and take it into your own self-awareness journey. Yeah. So I'm just gonna start by describing what the term self-esteem in psychology means. Okay. So self-esteem is the word that is described, that is used to describe someone's sense of self-worth. In other words, it's how much you appreciate yourself, how much you like yourself. This is generally what self-esteem is, okay? My ideas were based on, I've developed, because I've trained in psychodynamic and CBT. CBT is more practical. It talks about the here and now. So I based my talk on Dr. Shiradi's book on self-esteem, but also on my own clinic and experience as a psychotherapist and the things I've learned throughout the years. Okay? Am I speaking too fast? Okay, perfect. So Dr. Shirad, he says that self-esteem is a realistic and appreciative opinion of oneself. And I like that because when we talk about self-love, when we talk about self-care, we usually think that if we stop to care for ourselves, we're being selfish. We usually think that taking time to do something that will look after our own bodies and minds, we usually think it's kind of selfish, especially for women. I know this is quite sexist, but this is how it is. Our culture is sexist, and we know that as women, we have a lot on our plates. People ask and expect a lot from us. So that's why self-care is not about being selfish. It's in fact about what the word says, self-care. Do you know the guidelines that in the airplane, I forgot how we call them, the stewards in the airplane, they tell you to put, if there is a need, they tell you to put the oxygen mask on yourself first, and then put it on the person that you are caring for. Our tendency is to jump and help the person the child or the elderly that we are caring for. This is our tendency, but this is counterproductive, because if in that time you lose consciousness, you're not helping yourself, you're not helping the other person. So that's why you need to put the mask before on yourself and then on the child or the person you're caring for. And this is the idea of self-care. You cannot care for anyone else. You cannot give what you don't have. You cannot give if you don't care for yourself first. So let's establish that self-awareness, self-care, self-love is not selfish. It's actually being intelligent, because if you want to do good, if you want to be better, if you want to help others, you need to have something to give in the first place. Okay? So, worth, the self-worth. We are all born with worth, okay? Our core is, we're born with intrinsic worth. It's a worth that is not dependent upon anything that you do, anything that you are, anything that you make. It is not dependent on. Everyone is equal. And this is why I like this sentence, that self-esteem is a realistic and appreciative opinion of oneself, because everyone has value, intrinsic value. We're born with that value, okay? And looking at it from a healthy self-esteem kind of perspective is seeing both the good and bad. It's being real, not being positive or not being negative, but being realistic about it. We all have faults, we all have qualities, and this is what our core self is about, having qualities and faults. So our core is, I like to think about it as a newborn baby, or an embryo, the baby, before even the baby is born, an embryo. It's complete, but it's not completed. So our core is like an embryo of a baby, or a seed, if you like. It has everything that it needs to grow into an adult, or to go to its full potential. It's not going to receive a leg or a nose or a hand in the course of the pregnancy. The embryo has everything it needs. With the right nurture and nourishment, will grow into completion. So do you see what I mean? The baby is complete, but it's not yet gone into completion. It's not grown into completion. This is our core. We are all born with this value that doesn't change, that it is what it is. And it has everything in it for us to thrive and be what we need to be, what we have to be, what we were destined to be. With the right nourishment, with the right nurturing, will grow into completion and will grow into full potential. So what happens when we don't have the right nourishment or the right nurturing? This is where the problem lies, because if you don't receive proper nourishment, your vision, the way you see your core is going to be distorted. People around us are mirrors. When the baby is born, the baby learns everything by imitating. Yeah, you do blah, 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 blah. You make sounds, you pull faces, the baby imitates you. It learns by imitation. And our identity is also formed like that, by how we see the important people around us, and usually it's the primary carers, parents, usually, but the important people in the very first weeks and months of the baby's lives, and how the baby sees those important people seeing him. We're not born knowing who we are. We learn who we are by the mirrors that are around us. So our parents, they reflect back to us what they see in us, what they think of us. So the experiences we have throughout life, especially in the first few years, they shape our identity. They shape our sense of self. Note that it doesn't change yourself. It doesn't change your core self. It just affects the way you see your core self. And this is where lack of self-esteem lies, is when what you learn about yourself is distorted, is not really who you are. Are you following me? Yeah? Okay. So according to Dr. Shirades, a healthy self-esteem rests on 3 building blocks, which are unconditional worth, unconditional love, and healthy growth. I'm going to go through the 3 of them, okay? Unconditional worth. As I mentioned before, we are all born with this equal, unchanging, intrinsic worth as a person, as people. A worth that is not increased or diminished by external factors, such as the way people treat you, success, mistakes you make, bad decisions, bank account balance. Although this is quite a powerful concept, it is not usually the message we receive from the outside. So we are all born with the capacity to love, think rationally, sacrifice, persevere, adapt, appreciate beauty, be grateful, and make good decisions. It just needs to be developed. And when we don't receive from our environment, from the important people around us, at the very first moment we arrive into this world, we start develop the first few weeks, months, years, when we don't receive that reflection that our worth is not based on what we do. So when we don't receive that, that's where, again, we start lacking self-esteem. So unconditional worth is just that. It's not, I know we recognize it with examples. So for example, when we say to a child, you are stupid because you've made a mistake. Okay, we don't say that. We know that we don't say that, but we also know that people do say that sometimes. And this is really detrimental. So if you say you're stupid because you've made a mistake, what did you do there? You've attached the value of their identity with the behavior. So the mistake becomes the identity, and they're separate. They're separate things. We make mistakes, and this is how we learn, but that doesn't change the intrinsic worth that you have. So when we receive those kinds of signals from the important people around us, this is when we don't receive unconditional worth. And linked to that, unconditional love. Mother Teresa once said that each individual person has been created to love and to be loved. We know that this is a huge part of our lives. Love is a huge part of our lives. But what is it? What is love? Dr. Shirades gave a few ideas of what love might be. I don't think anyone has ever had a consensus on that, so I'll leave this open. But he says that he suggests that love is a feeling that we experience, that is the attitude that wants what's best for the beloved, a decision and commitment made each day even if we don't feel like it. So I think I like this description, because I think just like forgiveness, I think love is a decision. Sometimes we don't feel like it, but we have to carry on the fact that we've decided to want what's best for the other person. A skill that we learn. If we think about the core self as a seed, unconditional love is the nourishment that helps the seed grow. Love does not create worth. This is very important. Love or worth, they don't create our core self or our worth. It already exists. And this is the message that needs to be clear. We are all born with intrinsic worth, with intrinsic value. Okay? It just helps us experience our worth and ourselves and enjoy the process of growing, which is the next building block. So healthy growth, again, doesn't change the core, is the process. So, and this process, it will allow us to enjoy our worth. It will help us to like ourselves, because once you have the right environment, the seed grows. Once you have the right environment, the baby grows. Once you have the right environment, your self-esteem grows. Yeah? So I think that underneath many of the problems that I see, I would say 90% of my patients, regardless of what they come with, the issues and the problems and the difficulties that they report, regardless of that, 90% of them have low self-esteem. And this is something that is much more common than we would like to admit, to be honest, because we think that having low self-esteem is bad, is a weakness, is you're weak. How can you not love yourself? How can you not like yourself? And many times, well, what do? We go to the other extreme, which is perfectionism, trying to cover up the idea that we have that we are not worthy. But this is what I want you to understand. They are all ideas, because your core self has worth. And this is where we need to go back to. This is what we need to rescue. The core, your vision, the way you see yourself and for who you are, not the person that you believed you are because other people told you you are. Many people say, oh, I had to be strong because in my family, I'm the eldest and my mom was sick and my dad was always working. So I had to take care of my siblings and I had to be the strong one and my family relied on me. And so the family made you to be strong. No, you've accepted that role. Regardless of the needs, you've accepted the role. So we have a part to play in the way we build the way we see ourselves. So when I was writing it, it reminded me of a script. So we are born and it feels like a script begins to be written for us, not by us, but about us. But it's written for us in our place. We're not writing it because we are just absorbing what's happening around us, the experiences, and obviously relating them to our own traits and personalities. But people are writing our scripts for us. What happens is sometimes when we become adults and we become mothers and we have scripts that do not work anymore. And when we think about self-esteem, sometimes in our scripts, it is the sense that we are a failure, that we are not worthy, that we are stupid, that we are not intelligent, and we believe in those scripts. We don't challenge them. And when we do that, we buy the labels without questioning it, and we live by them. And that's why many times we live unhappy lives, because we live by a script that is not our true selves. So what we need to do is understand, and this is why self-awareness is key, because by understanding how we see ourselves and what is wrong in what we see in how we see ourselves, we can then rewrite our scripts and start seeing and looking our core selves for what it is and not for what other people told us about ourselves. Yeah? Okay, so when does it go wrong? What happens? How does it go wrong? So self-esteem, obviously, helps us to experience ourselves accurately, gladly, but what prevents us from doing so then? Unreasonably negative thoughts. And I want you to remember the word negative automatic thought. We call it NAT, negative automatic thought or thoughts. NATs are thoughts that are in our pre-conscious, and they are there. We're not aware of them, but they're there, okay? And those NATs, they come from the core, okay? So however you believe your core is, the way you see your core, it's what's going to have an impact on how you think, okay? And NATs we have automatic thoughts, but most of them are negatives. That's why we call them NATs. In cognitive behavior therapy, we believe that we think, feel, and do connected. What we do, we feel, and think they're connected, okay? So whatever external stimuli we receive is received by our senses and interpreted based on information we already have. So a baby has no concept of consequence in the sense of moderating their actions. For an example, a baby may put his hand in a fire without having the information of the consequence of doing so. An adult will already know by their own experience or by other people's experiences that if you put your hand in fire, it will burn and hurt a lot. So we also react emotionally and behave in accordance with the meaning we attach to the event or object. If I'm afraid of spiders and you are not, okay? If I am afraid of spiders and you're not, I see a spider here, I'll probably scream and shout and run and panic, yeah? And you, if you see a spider, it's not gonna matter. You're not afraid of it. You might kill it, you might leave it. Nothing's going to happen. Is the spider the problem? No, because if it was the spider, everyone would react in the same way, right? So the problem is not the spider, it's the meaning we attach to the spider. So I attach to the spider the meaning that it's dangerous. That's why I freak out. You don't think a spider is dangerous, so you don't react. So can you see this link between what we think? I think spider is dangerous, and I feel fear, panic, and I run. So thought, feeling, behavior. It's all connected, yeah? And so in CBT, we also believe that our core selves can be interpreted by the information we receive by our primary caregivers. So how we see ourselves, we register by those information. So in the same way that you learn, for example, that fire hurts, you're gonna learn a few things about yourself, truth or not. If they're truth or not, it's not the point. You're gonna learn a few things about yourself, information about yourself. So in that way, we develop a narrative, as I said, a script. based on what experiences and the way we see people seeing and treating us. We might develop a way of seeing our core selves, not with the true intrinsic worth and natural ability that it has, but as a distorted image of what other people projected. And that is the beginning of low self-esteem. So if we take that prerogative, if you think that you received an information, okay, that you are not good enough. So if you have that information inside of you, if you come up, I don't know, there's a challenge, you have an interview or you have to do something on, you have to, I don't know, do a live a Zoom call or things that we're doing right now that people are freaking out. I have many clients say, I can't talk on the internet. Well, I am nervous. I was telling Livia, I'm really nervous and I'm used to do it. So it's normal. So you might see that challenge as an impossibility because you don't believe in yourself. What you believe is that you are not good enough. So you're not going to go for the challenge because you don't think you can do it. But that's not based on your true self. That's based on the information you believed about your true self. And then you think something, you feel something else, and then you react. So if you think you're not good enough, you feel sad, and then you don't do it. If you think that you might do it and see what happens, you might feel excited, and then you do it, and you can fail, or you may fail or not. It doesn't. The point is not about being positive or negative, succeeding or not. It's about trying. It's about the reality of it. So, is it clear? Yeah? Okay. So let's imagine an apple. So an apple, the way our thoughts work from our core beliefs to the NATs, the negative automatic thoughts. It's like an apple, okay? So the seeds, the middle of it, the seeds are the core beliefs. The pulp is what we call rules for living or assumptions. And the skin is the nuts, okay? I don't know if I can share a screen with you guys.
Yes, you can. If you click here, can you just click, there's a button that says share screen.
Mm-hmm. It's saying host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Okay, let me see. Stop video, stop all, allow.
It's okay, it's okay. It's easy to understand anyway. So if you think about the apple, so the seed is core beliefs, the pulp is the rules and assumptions, and the skin is the nuts. I'm going to go into each one of them and explain what they are and how they work. So the core beliefs are central beliefs that people hold, which can be about self, others, and the world. Okay, so we're just going to focus on core beliefs about ourselves because this is what we're talking about. So core beliefs are all often formed at an early age, very early age. In an ideal world, we would see our core for what it is, just as the seeds, immutable, complete. It has potential to grow into completion with the right care. It is the first to exist, core beliefs as the seed, it's the first to exist, and it exists without everything else. So the core exists without the other thoughts, as the seed exists without the pulp and the skin. It's the first to exist. So, unfortunately, this is not always what happens. When those three building blocks that we talked about at the beginning, unconditional worth, unconditional love, and healthy growth, they're not in the right place, we tend to develop distorted beliefs such as, I am unlovable, I am not worthy, I am a failure, etc. They are usually negative, generalized, and difficult to shift, as they are developed very early on and are confirmed throughout life. So we receive this information very early on. It's the main one. It's very rigid. It's really difficult. It's the most difficult to shift. Okay, it's our core belief about ourselves. From the core beliefs, we develop rules and assumptions. We don't go around saying I'm a failure. We don't go around saying that. However, we say things that come from that type of core belief. For an example, the rules and assumptions, they are that rules, assumptions, just as the pulp, the biggest part, and they are an intermediate stage of cognition between the nuts and the core. So it's a little bit easier to shift than the core, but it's still black and white, very rigid, very generalized. They come in sentences like, if I'm not perfect, people won't love me. If I make a mistake, I am unworthy. If I fail, it means I'm a complete failure, etc. They're usually negative, rigid, and easier to shift than core beliefs, as I said. So we usually have those kind of beliefs. So in the spider situation, my belief about the spider was that a spider is dangerous and it will attack me. This is a rule and assumption that I've made about a spider because I believe spiders are dangerous. So although they are a bit easier to shift, they are still quite black and white. And we can see, when we are talking like this, we can see that they're quite extreme. Like, if I make a mistake, it means I'm a complete failure. We know that we're not a complete failure, but the fear, that the anxiety that is triggered when we go through a situation, if we have a low self-esteem, it's based on those kind of black and white generalized ideas of ourselves. And on the surface, the easiest to access and to shift are the nuts. As I said, they are, the name is negative automatic thoughts. They're negative and automatic. And they come, again, from the core, the rules and assumptions, and they stay here, guiding our feelings and actions. So they are in the pre-conscious, and we react. It's do you know when people say my panic attack came out of the blue? No panic attack comes out of the blue. Okay, let me tell you that. No panic attack will ever come out of the blue. They usually come from the nuts. The nuts, they are in your pre-conscious, and you're not paying attention to them because we are not used to engaging with them. So you're probably picking up something that is triggering your fight and flight response, which is your anxiety response, your fear response. And based on those kind of rules and assumptions and your core belief. So if you, I don't know, if you have panic of a social situation and you go into a store, you might have panic attack and not realize that actually you saw someone that you knew and you thought that person might come and talk to me, and then you panicked. So the thoughts are there, we're just not engaging with them. Those are the nuts, okay? And there, the problems with our self-esteem lie usually on that surface. The messages that we have stored in our nuts, they usually are about negative about ourselves, about low self-esteem. So I think I have a few examples. So about the nuts, still about the nuts. They're quick, often dysfunctional interpretations that we make about events. Oh yeah, and they are specific to the event. So the assumptions are a bit generalized, the core beliefs are very generalized, but the nats are specific to situations, okay? So with a core belief, I am a failure, okay? And consequently, a rule for living that says if I make a mistake, it means that I am a complete failure. A nat could be, I will fail this test as I fail everything and will make a fool of myself. So it's specific to a situation. And that is, can you see all the layers that it's coming from? So the core is here. Then you have the rules and assumptions that come from the core, and then you have the nats. They're very specific to situations linked to the core. Let's look at our real life situation to try and understand how we build distorted beliefs about our core, about our identity. So it's an extract from the book I'm going to read, okay? So it says this. For instance, let's say that Laura and Gia grew up with an extremely abusive father. In response to the abuse, which is the adversity, Laura thinks, I've been treated poorly, I must not be worth anything. Okay, so Laura thinks from the abuse, I've been treated poorly, I must not be worth anything. As a result, she feels depressed and experiences herself with dislike, which are the emotions. Gia responds to the same kind of abuse with different thoughts. Gia is upset by the abusive treatment, but she perseveres. She preserves her self-esteem and optimism. What determines whether we experience appropriate upset or disturbance at the emotional level is the thoughts that we choose. We don't know why someone reacts attaching the treatment or the adversity to the identity. We don't know how those things happen, unfortunately. And sometimes they say psychology doesn't tell you, it's not future telling. It doesn't tell you how, because of this situation, how someone will end up being. But we can get someone's life and look back and then think, oh, this is how it developed. It makes sense. So it's usually like that. We don't know how some people will react. In the same household, people reacted in really different ways. But can you see that the way they think about it, the way they see the adversity, makes an impact on how they see themselves? A child, very small child, usually blames themselves for most things that happen. We don't understand, we don't know. It's not, many times it's no one's fault. But if the parents divorce and the child is small, the child might think that it's somehow their fault. And it's not. And sometimes the parents didn't say anything. Sometimes no one said anything. But the child has that idea that things that happen around them are connected to their identity or who they are. And this is how we develop our sense of self-worth and therefore low self-esteem or a good, healthy sense of self-esteem. So CBT shows that our thoughts affect our emotions, and they go through our minds so quickly that we don't notice them. And that's why we don't challenge them, because many times we don't even see them. We don't even see them there. Dr. Beck, from one of the fathers of cognitive therapy, he called these automatic thoughts unreasonably negative, judgmental, unkind, and inaccurate. And they make us feel dissatisfied, uncomfortable with ourselves, and it's what he calls distortions. I have a list. I had this I was trying to share this early on with my friend. I'm going to try and share it with you. I don't know if it's going to come. It's a list about unhelpful thinking styles.
Just going to say that we have 5 more minutes, if that's okay. Let me see if I can allow you to share.
So the unhelpful thing, you can have a look about the unhelpful thinking styles
Thank you.
at home, because this is quite interesting. We all do some of them at some point. Yeah. So it's good for us to try and understand. So I think that the important thing is we can change. How can we change? What can we do to change? So the main thing is to rewrite the script, to see ourselves for who we really are instead of what other people said and told us that we are. So we have to start with self-acceptance. Yeah, the thing that I said at the beginning, we all have faults, we all have qualities. We have to start with self-acceptance. Make a list of your qualities. Usually I have in my assessment, I ask people about their qualities and faults. They give me a list of their faults, but they cannot come up with 2 qualities. We don't know how to think about ourselves in that kind of way. We don't acknowledge our qualities. So don't look only at your faults and the mistakes you make and the things you don't like about yourself. Accept that you have those things, but you also have qualities. Embrace them, look at them, find them, okay? Be aware of your strengths. So as I said, make a list of your strengths, the things you're good at. Don't be shy. It's not boastful, it's not proud. You're not being proud because of that. Just write about your own strengths. Challenge the gnats. Challenge those negative automatic thoughts. Think about the things when you have feelings stirred up. Think about what you were thinking just before that. Engage with your thoughts. Connect with your thoughts. Okay. The other thing I really encourage you is to use mindfulness. Mindfulness is a type of meditation. I don't know if you know. It's really, really good. It's proved to work for psychological difficulties like depression, anxiety, and it helps you to connect with the here and now. Because we are usually linked to the past, ruminating the past, or in the future, worried with the future, but we're not in the present. And the present is the only thing we have. So usually use mindfulness. There are apps, there are videos on YouTube, use mindfulness. Gratitude, be grateful. Develop gratitude for what you have. That thing that the neighbor's grass is always greener is not right. So develop a way of life of being grateful for what you have. See the cup half full, not half empty. Yeah. Have a better attitude towards suffering. It's not because it's painful that is bad. Sometimes pain brings good things. We learn from difficult situations. So don't ignore the hardships. Don't ignore what's going wrong in your life. Try and learn from it the best you can. And if you've made a mistake, try and learn so you don't do it again. If it's just something out of your control, embrace it and try and learn from it, okay? Care for your mind by caring for your body. So exercise, nutrition, sleep, very good sleep patterns. So please be aware of that. And forgive yourself. Sometimes it's easier for us to forgive others than to forgive ourselves. If you are a perfectionist, this is going to be even harder, because we are usually very hard on ourselves, and we have the pressures on the outside that we cannot control, and we pressure ourselves from the inside, asking sometimes too much, and expecting too much, and not being merciful or caring or loving enough towards our own selves. I could develop into all of that. I think this is the gist of it. So I
Yes.
hope I gave it in the best way. I don't know.
Wow, amazing. I loved it. And I made my notes as well. You were talking about it and I'm like, okay, oh my gosh, I just need to write everything down. It just makes so much sense as well. I mean, and two things that I want to say about what you said is basically the example that you've given about, you know, like the siblings living in the same place and then having like an abusive father. I'm reading this book here, which is from Tony Robbins. It's called Awaken the Giant Within. And there's like a similar thing that he says here as well. And then he basically says that, I mean, there was like a father who was an alcoholic and he had like 2 sons. And then, of course, I mean, years goes by, and then the 2 sons, they develop into completely 2 different people. So basically one, he said, I mean, he became an alcoholic as well. So then he went to prison. So he followed basically the same steps as the father. And the other one, it was completely different. I mean, he became a businessman and he made a family. So he was like, you know, on the other side. And then when they were asked, basically, you know, who made you this way? And they both had the same answer. And the answer, because, I mean, how could I be otherwise with a father that I had? Exactly. And that's so interesting because, I mean, 2 people, I mean, with completely, you know, the same background, they turn up to be like 2 different, you know, completely different people. So that's, I mean, that's all comes to self-esteem, isn't it? To self-belief. If you believe you can do something, you can definitely do that. And then also something that you said as well, I mean, in relation to belief, you said, I mean, what you believe is everything. And that's exactly it. And I think I live by it as well. And then one thing that I believe is basically, if you attach fear to everything that you do, you're not going to do it. You're just not going to do it. If you attach, I mean, pleasure to everything that you do, you want to do it. Yeah. So it goes back to the presentation that we were talking before to start and say, oh, Lydia, you know, I'm nervous and blah, blah, blah. I said, you know, just do it. It's the same thing with me as well. When I did my first presentation in English, I'm going, oh my gosh, am I going to be, I don't know if they were able to understand me. You know, we just don't know. Because we have all those preconceived, I mean, ideas, and then we start self-doubting. That's the thing. We start doubting ourselves because we just attached fear to the presentation. Yeah. Or fear, in our case, I mean, we do the business, or fear, for example, to send the messages to people, or fear to do the Arbonne presentation, for example. So we attach fear to those things, so we're not going to do them because it's too scared. Yeah. So if you change your thinking, if you change your mind, and then if you say, actually, I think I'm going to have fun in doing that presentation. Actually, I think I'm going to, by the end of the presentation, I'm going to be, you know, tapping my back and saying, look, well done, you. So you just want to do it. Exactly. So that's exactly what happened to me. So when I did my first presentation in English, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. No, thank you. Everyone was like, you know, Livia, come and, you know, speak in that conference. And I'm like, no, thank you. No, I'm busy. No, thank you. So because I was attaching fear to that. When my mind shifted, and then it comes to a point, I mean, that the fear is so bad, and you just like, you wake up one day and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do it. Otherwise, I don't know, I just can't think, I can't bear the idea of not doing it anymore. So instead of, you know, just going through all the hurdle of, you know, having to come to that stage, just go and do it. Because by the end of it, I mean, you are going to feel great. Yeah. You're going to feel, and that's going to build your self-esteem, you know, it's like some blocks, I say. So it's a step by step, you just, you know, it's a building block. One step, another step, and then that's how you don't build your self-esteem like in one day.
Exactly, yeah. It's a process. That's what I usually say. It's a process. It's not an event. It's never an event. It's a process.
Exactly. And that's why, I mean, what you said about your mindfulness and doing the meditations, doing the affirmations and reading books as well. We all need those things. They're not just, I mean, they don't exist for nothing. They exist for a reason. And the reason is for you to do them. So do your affirmations in the morning. That will help you with your self-esteem. Read your books. I mean, read, if you are, I don't know, religious, go to religion, do whatever you feel good about it. I mean, have at least half an hour for yourself every single day. I know that might sound a lot for some of you, like, you know, with the chaotic life, children, work, and blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, if you've got at least 15 to 20 minutes for yourself in the beginning of the morning, the beginning of the day, you will have a better day. Exactly. I can assure you, I can guarantee you, because you're going to feel better, your self-esteem is going to grow, you're going to feel better with yourself, and then you're going to spread, I normally say that you're going to spread the love with everyone. Because that's it, because if you feel love, you spread the love. If you feel fear, you're going to spread fear.
Exactly.
So that's, I mean, that's, and the last thing I want to say is basically when you said, I mean, what other people think about you, it's not basically who you are. And that's so true, especially when you're doing something new. Again, just bringing back to what the business that we are doing now, it doesn't matter what people think about you. It doesn't matter what people think about the business, because they're not doing it. They're not you. So if you go to your friend, for example, and you say, oh, I started up a new business and that's it. Or even, let's say something else, and I started a school. I mean, some people, they want to go to university, something that they want to study, I don't know, philosophy. Mm-hmm. Why are you studying philosophy? How are you going to make money studying philosophy? You know, I mean, doesn't care. I mean, it's not for them to decide what you want to do. It's not for them to write your script, which is what you said. You have to be writing your own script. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what you want to do. If you want to go, I don't know, be a pilot, or, you know, start with network marketing, or do, I don't know, study philosophy, you just go for it. Because you, by the end of the day, I mean, you have to sleep and you have to feel happy about your life. And if you feel happy, again, people around you will know that you're happy, and that's it. And those questions and those thoughts, they will just go away, because people want to see you happy. Yeah. And if they don't want to see you happy, they shouldn't be in your life, should they?
I usually prescribe to my patients a film. It's in Netflix. It's called I Feel Pretty. I don't know if you've watched.
No.
It is amazing. It's like that rom-com kind of film, but it has such a perfect message about self-esteem. And so if you can watch, please watch it as a homework from the talk. I Feel Pretty. It's really, really, you're going to understand what I'm talking about.
Amazing, amazing. I'm going to say girls, because I mean, we've all girls in here. I loved it. Thank you so much for your time. And I know you put a lot of effort in preparing the presentation for us as well, but I can guarantee you that it was so worth it. And I know that we're going to feel better and sleep better and wake up a better person as well.
I would like to say thank you very much for everyone. I think I have to preparation for maybe 6 months to have courage to myself, encourage myself to say hello everyone, but at the moment I'm not confident to make YouTube or something like that. But I believe in myself. The more important, I believe in myself. Exactly. And I would like to thank you very much. Enjoy evening. Bye bye.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much, Lívia, Paula. I enjoy a lot. Enjoy a lot.
Rosa, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Amara, Gabi, Carla, Dani, Paula, Maria, Chanel, and Paula.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Lívia. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. It's a pleasure.
Bye. Bye.